What an end to what's ended up being a pretty great week for Boro. 9 goals in 2 games. They've smashed Luton Town by 5 goals to 1 and fired ourselves finally into the top 6. What is up, guys? Welcome back to another episode of Project Boro, the Boro reviewing series here on the channel, where we, of course, delve deep into each and every Boro game. And what a difference a week makes. This time last week, well, actually, as I'm recording this time last week, I was sat in the Riverside watching us go down 3-0 to Coventry once again. And it's fair to say, after that result, the mood was down. And we were looking at the 2 following games as must-win games where Boro simply had to be much better and pick up a minimum of 6 points. But not only have Boro done just that, we've scored 9 goals in 2 games and we've been absolutely ruthless. You know, what we've sort of been begging to see all season. You know, we know exactly what this Boro team is all about. We're a chance-creating machine. We should have scored so many more goals than what we have done. We've been underperforming our XG ridiculously. We still are, even at this point. But how many times this season were we crying out for Boro to just be ruthless, Boro to just put a team away, take their chances, and had they done on the majority of the occasions, you know, we'd have won so many games, to which we didn't, and we dropped stupid points. But all the things we've been asking Boro to be, all the players who have been asking to step up and show that ruthless quality, that ruthlessness, that deadly, potent, attacking force up front, we've finally seen that in the last 2 games. And today, yep, Luton Town, they come to Riverside and they're not in a good place, and I'll talk about them and what might come from their performance from here, because they were not great at all. But you know, it's not been too bad on the road. There's still been a giant question mark over Boro's home form, and I said in my preview, desperately did we need to put in a convincing home performance in front of the home fans, get it done at the Riverside, and this is the tonic, the exact tonic to what I think Boro have needed, and this is what Boro have been threatening to be all season. We've said time and time again, we know what's in this team, we know the potential of this team, we know how we play such good football, the talent within the team, the individuals. It's been all about knitting it together, cutting out the errors, and being that one word, I'll use it again, ruthless. And are we now finally starting to see the real Boro? Have we clicked? Have Boro 15 games in finally arrived? Are we seeing the true Middlesbrough Football Club? That, I think, will be judged rightfully at the end of the season. But yeah, in a really, really important period, in a really, really important week, Boro have responded in the literal best possible way I think we could have asked for. So, delving deep into the game, I'm going to start with the starting 11 because I'm going to hold my hands up. And if you follow me on Twitter, link in the description, I was very sceptical of Boro's starting 11, and I was a little bit frustrated. You know, it's been mentioned in and around a few Boro podcasts, you know, that Carrick the Tinker Man, you know, that whenever we've got a winning team, he makes changes here and there, rests players he shouldn't. And we saw that last week, obviously, with Ben Duck getting rested. And last week, before the Coventry game, my hopes and expectations sunk like a balloon being burst when I saw Ben Duck wasn't in the team, and the subsequent result of that wasn't great. And it was similar before this game. You know, after a fantastic performance in midweek, we saw Tommy Conway drop for Lath, we saw McGree drop for Burgzorg, who, I don't know when his last start was for the Boro, to be honest, but when you're seeing Riley McGree being dropped out of the team, you guys all know how much more unlikely it is that Boro have the balance on the left and can put in a performance and get the result. So I was extremely deflated when I saw McGree was rested and Conway had been dropped. He's obviously been in form, and I looked at our left-hand side and I thought, Luke Ayling, not a natural left-back. Burgzorg barely played much this season, and even when McGree's been took out, it's always been Micah Hamilton who's come in on the left. So I'm not afraid to say when I'm wrong, I was massively, not critical, but I didn't agree with the starting 11 at all, and I felt that same deflation. I felt that little bit of optimism just drift away when I saw the starting 11, but Michael Carrick, credit to him, got it absolutely bang on, and we adapted the way we played today a little bit as well to really counteract Luton Town. We tried to go long, we tried to use Burgzorg's height and physicality to try and win the long balls because Luton were very aggressive in their press, and it was working for quite a large part of the game, and I'll break the game down in a bit, but for much of the first 25 minutes, we couldn't go short, trying to go long. Obviously, it's difficult. They've got a very physical back line, so Burgzorg was useful for that, but because of the nature of Luton's man marking, Burgzorg and Lath were being left 1v1, and so was Ben Doak, and that was suicidal from Luton, and Burgzorg and Lath just kept running in behind, kept getting in behind, and it was threatening in that first 25 minutes, and that leads me on to the game itself, because the first 25 minutes wasn't great, and I don't think it was because either side were particularly poor. I mean, our passing wasn't great, like we have in a few other games of late. We didn't start that well, and we were a little bit disjointed, a little bit disconnected. It feels like it takes us a bit of time to work out the opposition and adapt and really get up the gears and get into our stride, but I think a lot of that was down to Luton as well, and they were absolutely fine for the first 25 minutes, pretty much up until Boro's goal. Luton, I thought, were very aggressive, exactly what you'd expect from a Luton Town team. They were aggressive in the press. Boro found it very hard playing out from the back. They were forcing us to go long. Burgzorg was struggling to win some of the aerial battles up against some of their big players, so we were trying to get in behind. And as I say, there was plenty of moments where Azaz or Hackney would try and play the ball into Lath or Burgzorg, and the ball was maybe a little bit too long or a little bit too short. There was an obvious threat that Boro, when they could get in behind, could damage Luton. And I turned to Johnny during the game and I said, all Boro needs a first goal here. And I think the game's ours. I felt pretty convinced that would be it from there. But it was a case of, could we get that first goal? Because, quite simply, it was so important. If Luton had got that first goal, they would sit back, defend, make the game scrappy, make the game bitty. It would have been one of them afternoons for Boro. But thankfully, after half an hour, after what was a very bitty, sticky kind of half, where neither side could really get a grip, Boro got the first goal. And I think from that moment on, the floodgates really, really opened. And it was a really good set-piece routine from Boro. You don't see this very often from Boro, to be honest with you. We're normally quite poor from set-pieces, and the deliveries are either not great or they're floated right on top of the goalkeeper. But this is the first time I've seen us do something different, and it's the first time in a long time I've seen it work. So I'm going to credit Grant Leadbitter for this, because we are told he is the man on set-pieces, so I assume he's the brains behind this. But Azaz plays the ball low towards the front post. Ben Doak flicks it outwards in between a number of Luton Town defenders, and there is Delano Burgzorg with pretty much a free shot at goal. And earlier in the season, that would have probably been blocked, or he'd have got under it and skied it, or we'd have somehow missed the sitter. But he kept it down, he placed it really well, and Burgzorg got us up and running on the half-hour mark. And as I say, that was it for me. That was the exhale of, not relief, but I think Boro getting the first goal at home, breaking through that Luton defence and ensuring that they maybe had to come out a little bit. It opened up gaps for Boro, and when our confidence started to grow, that was it from there. And some of the quality of goals from this moment onwards were absolutely outstanding. On the 43rd minute, Lath scored, Boro's second. This was just sensational from top to bottom. Finn Azaz, who was an absolute machine today. I'll talk about Finn Azaz. He had his best performance in a Boro shirt. He ran the show. He played a lovely little ball over the top of the defence to Lath, who is up against really big physical defenders, but he still manages to hold his own, as he often does for a man of his size. He holds off their defender, and then the turn. Oh my word, the turn. It sends Mengi to a different postcode. The turn is exquisite, but then you're still thinking, on his weaker foot, can he bury it? He just sidefoots it into the left corner, and the first thing I said was, that's like the Lath of last season. That's not the Lath who struggled in the first 10, who got one goal in the first 10. That's a Lath who is confident. That's the Lath that we saw at the end of last season. It was a unbelievable take, a great first touch from a great pass, a lovely turn, and a brilliant finish to cap it off, and we go into the half 2-0 up. And I think that was the opportunity for Luton to maybe change things up. I think it was clear for them that Boro was showing signs of breaking through and signs of getting in behind. He didn't change anything, Rob Edwards, and Boro just continued to say, well, in the lightest possible way, to have their way with Luton Town. And it only took 6 minutes for Boro to get themselves a third. And again, the quality of the football was absolutely outstanding. Hayden Hackney played a beautiful ball in behind to Ben Doak, who again, absolutely unbelievable today. Involved in everything, a threat going forward as he has been all season. He made a fantastic run in behind, and what I will say on that Hackney ball, a lot of call for some fans that want Johnny Howson in the team and question marks over whether Hackney was going to come straight back in. That is why Hayden Hackney is in this Boro team. But still, Ben Doak in behind. Can he play the perfect pass? Cuts it back to Azaz, who, as I say, had the game of his life. Again, earlier in the season, would we have buried that? Probably not. It would have found a way of missing. Wide over, saved. But Azaz puts it right in the top corner. It's an outstanding finish from Azaz. And that was 3. Boro weren't done. A fourth then came only 3 minutes later, and it come from the same threat that we mentioned in the first half. Again, Lath getting in behind once again. It was again a great ball forward. I think it was Azaz who played this ball forward. It was obvious Luton just didn't have the pace to deal with Lath. McGuinness, even though he looked like he was ahead of Lath, lost out on the duel. I thought Lath had screwed this up, but he takes a cute little step over, shimmies the goalkeeper, and then slides the ball through to Delano Burgzorg, who was right there to his right-hand side. Simple tapping to make it 4. And then the game took a ginormous drop after that. And I wouldn't say there were nerves around the stands, but after Boro went 4-0 up, we made changes and the tempo of the game was just gone. It became a non-event pretty much after that. And I wouldn't say Boro fans were getting frustrated, but the game was basically just teetering out towards 4-0, jobs are good. But Luton did get a consolation goal on the 77th minute, and this was just a little sign of Boro taking their foot off the gas because the game was comfortable and the ball was played out to Hamilton. I don't think it was a foul. I think that it was just a strong press from Luton. The ball is crossed to Clark, who finishes quite well, and you can see by Senny Dieng's reaction after the ball goes in, he was furious because he wanted that clean sheet, rightfully so. He's still sort of thinking, 4-1, 13 minutes to go, it should be fine, but there was an ounce of, oh God, if Luton get another, with still 10 minutes to go, just because of results this season, Watford, Norwich Cup, there might have been a slight little bit of anxiety creeping into the Riverside, and Boro was still sort of playing the ball around slowly. The fans were sort of trying to just give them that little push to say, come on, the game may or may not be done, but let's just not sit on a 4-1. Let's go and kill it off even further. And Azaz, well, didn't he do that on the 87th minute? This was a moment of sheer magic, and there's no one else on the pitch who deserved this moment. There's no one else on the pitch who I think could have pulled this off. He gets the ball from Luke Ayling just inside the box on the far left-hand side. He opens his body up, and the finish is top draw. Azaz from an angle, from range, he has to catch this so perfectly. He bends it right in to the far corner. It was a top finish, and that is exactly what Azaz can do. We saw him doing it for Plymouth, and I've been banging the drum for months about Azaz. I'll defend him forever. He's showed signs so often this season of what he can do, and maybe he still has to do it a little bit more consistently, and maybe against top sides, but we know what he can do. We know how many chances he creates, and he can't be at fault for chances that have been wasted by our forwards this season. But today, and recent games have shown, his ball to Conway against QPR, when the strikers are on it, Azaz will absolutely eat up the assist numbers. But not only was he a provider today, he scored 2 brilliantly taken goals, the 5th especially, was an absolute wonder goal. And Boro capped off a brilliant 5-1 win at the Riverside. As I say, the exact result that we've wanted and needed at home. And as I say, credit to Michael Carrick for changing things up. We were absolutely brilliant. But like QPR, it wasn't a perfect 90 minutes. You know, there was a big drop-off after 4-1, which you can say is fine because we're 4-1 up. But, yeah, we could have maybe managed the game a little bit better, continue to put Luton to the sword. Goal difference is a big thing, and when you've got them on the ropes, you should just continue to press home your advantage. So, yeah, we didn't get the clean sheet, which I think Senny definitely will be a little bit upset about because he did make one very, very good save at 3-0, I think it was, from Cauley Woodrow. But, you know, it's the opposite of what we've seen from Boro this season. You know, so often we created an abundance of chances, failed to put them away, and it was the opposition who were being ruthless and clinical, and we were being punished for every single mistake we made. But in the last 2 games, and even against Norwich just over a week or so ago, you could say that's Boro at their ruthless best. This is what we saw under Michael Carrick in the playoff campaign when we had Archer and Akpom. We were ruthless. We would put games away within minutes. You know, with a 20, 30-minute spell, bang, 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 we'd hit teams for 2, 3, 4. It doesn't matter what they do from there on in. We would just outpower teams going forward, and we've seen us doing that once again. And listen, QPR weren't great. Luton weren't great, and I'll talk about them in a sec, but you can only beat what's in front of you. And Boro have went from a team languishing in mid-table when it comes to goals scored in this division to now being near enough. I think up until Sunderland's game today, I think, and Leeds as well have scored, we were joint top goal scorers in the league, which you would not have said only a few weeks ago. But it was even more important to do this at the Riverside as well. I think that has to be massively, massively mentioned. Going away from home, we've always been good under Michael Carrick. We have to be better at home. This, I'm praying, is the start of a real improvement in form at home, proving we can absolutely put teams away at the Riverside. So, looking at the stats then, before we look at the lineup once again, Boro overperforming their XG. It's starting to level out, and that's what I notice about data, and I know there's a lot of people who aren't big on data, but I always love to use the data as a reference because it really gives you a good idea of how the team's playing. It might not always be relatable to the result, it might not reflect the result all the time, but it gives you a good idea of how a team's playing and how they're creating and the good stuff they're doing. And I'm sure the Boro coaching team will be massive on data. That's probably where Carrick, has continued to bang home the point that we've been doing good things this season. We've not been giving up much. We've been creating an absolute abundance. So I think we're starting to see them numbers coming true and are being reflected in reality now, because we're still underperforming massively in terms of how many goals we should score. We still should have about 5 more goals this season, but how often this season were we seeing Boro with an XG of 2 or 3 and we weren't scoring any? Today, 1.42, only 6 shots on target, but 5 were put away. It's brilliant, it's clinical, it's exactly what we need to be. And attacking wise, it's great to see Boro clicking up front because our attackers, we know, are good enough. It's great to see them delivering on that. Now, Luton limited to not very much. They did have 3 shots in this game, 5 in total. No real big opportunities, apart from Cauley Woodrow, as you could say. We kept Adebayo quiet. We kept Morris quiet when he come on. I mentioned in my preview, Luton are a very direct team. They actually had more possession than Boro at half-time, which surprised me. And they were getting the ball wide quite a bit to start with, and they whipped a few balls in the box first half. But, yeah, I was really surprised by Luton, to be honest with you. I thought they were very naive defensively with how they went man for man up against some of Boro's really, really top attacking players. And going forward, they didn't offer anything. I thought they'd at least still chuck a number of really dangerous balls into the box. But, yeah, Adebayo didn't have a sniff. None of their strikers had a sniff, really, and the strengths I would associate with Luton Town just weren't there today. And I know they missed Alfie Doherty, and I know that's a big, big loss for them, but still, today's a performance that sums up their season, really. They've had a terrible season, and maybe it's just took them coming up against a really good side for this result to happen. And I do worry from a Luton point of view, that will be it for Rob Edwards. And there's a bit of full circle to that because his first game was at the Riverside as Luton Town manager. It might in some cruel irony, be his last, especially when you listen to his post-match presser after the game. So we'll see what comes of Luton Town, but yeah, they did not look like a team that had just been relegated with parachute payments. They looked an absolute shadow of everything I'd associate with Luton Town. Looking at Borough's players then, absolute stars across the board, really. As I say, Senny Dieng, which is usually the case, didn't have much to do, but when called upon, made a very good save in the second half, and yeah, was very frustrated by the goal that was conceded. But again, solid enough, I would say. The defenders as well, I thought were pretty good. You know, Dijksteel continues to have a bit of a resurgence at Boro. I'm really happy for him. I thought in the summer if there was one Boro player who was likely to probably be out the door, it was Dijksteel, but he's done so well, and I'm just really happy for him. I'm really, really happy for how Dijksteel has sort of gone up to a level. I thought Boro had maybe outgrown him, but he's done so well to get back to a good level and deserves to be in this Boro team. Ayling, I thought, did a good job at left back, given it's not his natural position. Got an assist for the 5th goal as well. Clark and Edmondson, I thought, were relatively solid. I would say Clark's distribution at times today wasn't great, but he's a defender, and he's a very good one first and foremost. And I want to give a big shout out to George Edmondson, because Michael Carrick revealed in his post-match presser on BBC Tees that Edmondson was ill overnight, and he actually threw up on the pitch twice today. Both in the first half and the second half, he keeled over, and I saw him keeling over in the second half. I think it was, or was it the first half? And I wondered what was up with him. But apparently, he threw up on the pitch twice today. But he still was like a warrior. He still stayed on, defended well, and I think he deserves immense credit for that. The two midfielders were absolutely outstanding. Again, I don't subscribe to the idea that any other two of Boro's midfielders start against these two. Aidan Morris was absolutely everywhere. Once again, covered every single blade of grass on the pitch, cleans up so well, wins second balls. So often in that first half when Luton were having a better spell, he was there intercepting, reading the game, making very important tackles. He's just an unbelievable midfield. He's perfect to be alongside Hayden Hackney, who was back to his best today. As I say, his ball into Doak for Boro's third was absolutely brilliant, and Hayden Hackney, he just adds so much more to this midfield, and I think what he gives us positively far outweighs the many few negatives that I think he might have in his game. The attackers were great too. Ben Doak, you know, what more can you say about him? 2 assists today, continues to be an absolute menace on the right-hand side. He was brilliant today. Burgzorg, all the credit in the world. Listen, I wasn't a believer of him coming into the team, and I still feel like he's up one week, down the next, but it was a great call from Carrick to bring him in today, and I thought he took his goals very, very well. I mean, they were both finishes you'd expect from Burgzorg, but he was in the right position, and I thought especially at times he held the ball up really well and retained possession pretty well too. I'm going to leave the star man till last. I'm going to mention Lath, who I think just because Conway has been playing so well, it's maybe gone under the radar that Lath's sort of crept back up to a decent level, a very good level, in fact. He took his goal really, really well. He obviously has been scoring recently as well. Did he come off? Did he come on and score against QP? He did, yeah, because he went around the goalkeeper, didn't he? So, yeah, Lath's continuing to make an impression when he comes in off the bench or when he started today, and we've now got the pick of Lath and Conway, who are both scoring goals, which is fantastic. So I'm really happy to see Lath getting back to his confident best. He took his goal today brilliantly well, but today all the praise goes to Finn Azaz, who was running the show. He looked a level above today. You know, on the ball, his awareness of where he's on the pitch, his ability to create space and play just fantastic balls into his teammate to keep Boro's attack ticking. So often today, you know, he was at the centre of absolutely everything Boro did. He took both his goals well, especially the 5th. It was an absolute worldie. He got an assist too. It was undoubtedly Finn Azaz's best performance in a Boro shirt. Couple of cameos off the bench. Barlaser come on, Hamilton to Conway. Didn't really get into the game. It was also good to see Dale Fry getting his first minutes for Boro in what won't be long off a year, if not maybe it is a year since he played for Boro last. It was good to see him heading on to the pitch. And finally, looking at the league table, it is great to finally see Middlesbrough in the top 6. So often this season, we have been teetering on the brink of stepping in to the top 6. And as I say, every time we've had one foot in there, we've found a way of blowing it. But finally, we take a step into the top 6. And I hope that's us there to stay. Now, we're level on points with Burnley. We've jumped Millwall. We've jumped West Brom. I think West Brom might still or could still overtake us if they are able to beat Hull tomorrow. I think it might be that they play. So Boro might not be in the playoffs by the end of the weekend, but it's good to see us there. And, suddenly you're 5 points off second. You start to look up, and again, if we come back, put a good run together, if we can just solidify ourselves in the playoffs a little bit, that might ease the pressure, because the expectation is top 6. So if we can just get ourselves settled in there, we might be able to then relax a little bit, take the pressure off, and then really put a run together and go for it. Because as we say, when we return from the international break, it's going to be absolutely mental. Games, week in, week out, fixtures, one after the other. Now is the time to put a run together. Boro have set themselves up, I hope, to really, really kick on after the international break. But a fantastic result for Boro today. Absolutely unbelievable. It's so good to see us back to our goal scoring best. It's so good to see our attackers shine, and it's so good to see the Boro that we've been asking for all season. The Boro we've known was there. It's just been frustrating that we've not been able to see it enough. But a brilliant response to what was a very tough result last week. And if you look at the Norwich game as well, it's 12 goals in 4 games. So, on another day, Boro might have beaten Norwich and we'd be looking at an outstanding run. But as it happens, we've turned things around when it matters the most, and we now head into the international break. Hopefully, we can get the boys back all freshed, maybe a few of the injuries too. Let's absolutely go for it when we come back and head to Oxford at the end of November. But let me know your thoughts on the game today. If you were there, if you weren't, if you're a Boro fan, I'd also be very intrigued to hear from any Luton Town fans on their thoughts, especially on the future of Rob Edwards. But if you've enjoyed the video, do smash the like button. It really helps support the series and the channel out. Subscribe for much more Boro content to come. We, of course, review and preview lots of Boro games. There'll be plenty of Boro content to come throughout the international break. Don't you worry. Before we return, and of course, preview the Oxford game. And I'll probably do a preview of the upcoming batch of fixtures too. I'm also hoping to get my mate Chris, who a lot of you might know off Twitter. He's a fantastic, insightful Boro fan. I'm hoping to get him on the channel and we'll chat all things Boro in an extended episode of Project Boro at some point in the international break. So still lots of exciting stuff to come. But until the next one, guys, thank you so much for watching. Thank you for listening if you are so on the podcast providers. And here's hoping we can kick on. And this is the start of the real Boro coming to play after the international break. I'll see you all in the next one.